How to control your thoughts and change your life. There is a silent storm inside every human being, a restless current of thoughts that never stops flowing. From the moment you wake to the moment you sleep, your mind is filled with voices, memories, judgments, worries, desires. Some of these voices lift you, remind you of hope, whisper courage. Others drag you down, poison your confidence, convince you that you are weak, unworthy, or broken. And most people live their entire lives without ever questioning these voices. They mistake the noise of thought for the truth of life. Perhaps you know this feeling. You try to rest, but your mind replays the mistakes of yesterday. You try to focus, but your thoughts wander into fears of tomorrow. You tell yourself you will be calm, yet your thoughts ignite anger or despair before you can stop them. You feel chained to a mind that never seems to obey you. It feels as though your thoughts control you and you are helpless to resist. But what if it is not meant to be that way? What if your thoughts are not masters to serve, but servants to guide? What if you could learn to control the flow of your mind, to filter what enters, to choose what stays, and to redirect what destroys? Imagine how your life would change if instead of being at the mercy of thoughts, you became the master of them. Imagine the freedom of peace, the clarity of focus, the strength of purpose. This is the value of the journey you are about to begin. If you stay with me until the end, you will not only understand your thoughts, you will learn to rule them. You will discover how to stop being a victim of negativity, how to replace destructive patterns with empowering ones, how to use the power of focus to build the life you desire. The treasure of this book is not more information, but transformation. The ability to take control of your inner world so your outer world reflects your highest self. The philosophy is simple but radical. You are not your thoughts. You are the thinker of thoughts. Your mind is a tool, not your identity. When you forget this, you become enslaved. But when you remember it, you awaken. Mastery begins the moment you stop identifying with every thought that arises and start choosing which ones deserve your attention. Thoughts will always come like clouds passing through the sky. But you are the sky, vast, spacious, unbroken. No cloud, no matter how dark, defines you. This core truth will change everything. Control your thoughts and you control your life. Because your thoughts shape your emotions shape your actions, and your actions shape your destiny. Most people try to change their lives by changing external circumstances, but the real battle is inside. Change your thinking and your world will follow. So as we begin this journey, I invite you to be honest. Look at your thought life. What are the patterns that rule you? What are the lies you have believed for too long? What fears play on repeat in your mind? Do not run from them. Face them, because only when you face them can you change them. If you stay with me, you will learn how to silence the storm, how to direct the river of thought toward strength, peace, and purpose. You will learn how to stop being a prisoner of your mind and start being its master. And when that happens, you will discover a truth that many search for, but few find. Freedom does not come from controlling the world. It comes from controlling yourself. If you are still here, then I know something about you. You are ready. You are no longer willing to live asleep at the mercy of a mind that betrays you. You want to awaken. And this book will walk with you step by step. Take a moment now. Close your eyes. Breathe. Whisper to yourself, I am not my thoughts. I am the thinker of thoughts. I choose what stays. That whisper is the beginning of transformation. That whisper is the key that will open every door that follows. If this resonated with you, share it. Someone else is drowning in the noise of their own mind, and your act of sharing may be the lifeline they need. Subscribe to stay on this journey, because what comes next will equip you with the tools to rewrite the story of your inner world forever. Chapter 1. Train your mind to obey you. There is a reason most people feel trapped in cycles of stress, Self-doubt and regret, they have never learned to train their minds. They wake up each day and let their thoughts wander wherever they wish, into fear, into distraction, into negativity, without realizing that every thought shapes the life they are building. Imagine allowing a wild horse to run through a crowded city with no reins. Chaos would follow. That is what happens when you let your thoughts run untrained. I once spoke with a young man named Daniel who described his mind as a battlefield. I wake up already tired, he said. I spend my day fighting thoughts of failure, comparing myself to everyone, doubting whether I am enough. I try to stop, but it feels like my mind does not belong to me. What Daniel did not realize is that he had been feeding these thoughts for years. Every time he entertained them, they grew stronger, like wolves made fat by his attention. The wolves you feed are the ones that rule you. This is why the first step to freedom is training. You cannot stop thoughts from appearing, but you can train your mind not to chase them. You can decide what deserves your attention and what does not. Every time you redirect your focus, you are strengthening the muscle of mastery. Just as the body grows stronger with repeated exercise, the mind grows steadier with repeated discipline. But training the mind requires vigilance. Thoughts arise quickly like sparks flying from a fire. If you do not catch them, they ignite into emotions and actions before you even notice. This is why awareness is crucial. Begin to notice the moment a thought appears. Ask yourself, does this thought serve me or does it sabotage me? If it serves you, dwell on it, feed it, let it grow. If it sabotages you, starve it by shifting your focus elsewhere. Slowly, the weeds of negativity wither and the seeds of strength flourish. The human struggle is that we confuse thinking with truth. Just because a thought arises does not mean it deserves belief. I am not good enough. I will always fail. They do not care about me. These are not truths. They are simply sentences in your head. But if you mistake them for reality, they will shape your emotions, and your emotions will shape your life. Training your mind means questioning these thoughts instead of obeying them. I once knew a woman named Elena who battled constant anxiety. Her mind whispered something is wrong dozens of times a day. She used to panic, obeying every whisper until she realized those thoughts were false alarms. She began training herself to respond differently, breathing deeply, reminding herself this is only a thought, not a truth. Slowly, her anxiety loosened its grip. The thoughts did not disappear, but her obedience to them did. That was her freedom. The metaphor I often use is this. Your mind is like a garden. Thoughts are seeds. Some grow into weeds of despair, others into flowers of peace. You cannot control every seed the wind blows in, but you can decide which ones to water. If you water weeds, do not be surprised when your garden becomes tangled. If you water peace, resilience, and courage, your garden will flourish. Training your mind is choosing what to water. So how do you practice this daily? Start by setting aside 5 minutes each morning. Sit quietly, breathe, and notice your thoughts. Do not judge them, simply observe. When a negative thought arises, practice shifting to something true and empowering. At first, it will feel clumsy, but over time, your mind will learn to follow your lead. Just as an untamed horse becomes rideable with training, your thoughts will begin to obey you. Remember, you are not powerless. You may feel overwhelmed now, but mastery is possible. Every disciplined moment strengthens you. Every redirected thought is a victory, and every small victory adds up to a life of strength, peace, and clarity. So I ask you, are you training your mind or letting it train you? Are you the rider or the horse, the gardener or the weeds? The choice is yours every moment, every day. If you are still here, take action now. Today, notice 3 thoughts that arise most often. Ask yourself whether they serve you or sabotage you. Share your insights in the comments. You may find that others battle the same patterns. And if this spoke to you, share it. Someone you know is drowning in their own mind, and they need to hear that freedom is possible. Subscribe so you do not miss the next chapter, because this is only the beginning of learning to master your inner world. Chapter 2. Break free from the prison of negative thinking. Negativity is like a slow poison. It does not always knock you down instantly, but it seeps into your spirit, weakening you day by day until you can no longer recognize yourself. For many people, this poison comes disguised as normal thinking. They do not notice how often their mind whispers words of defeat. I cannot do this. What if it all goes wrong? Why even try? These thoughts feel familiar, almost natural, and because they are repeated so often, they begin to feel like truth. But they are not truth. They are a prison, one built not of walls or chains, but of beliefs. I once met a man named Peter who lived under this kind of prison. From the outside, his life seemed stable. He had a good job, a family, and health. Yet every time an opportunity arose, a promotion at work, a chance to start a side business, an invitation to speak, his first thought was always, I will fail. This single sentence ruled his life. It stopped him before he could even try. When we talked, I asked him, how do you know you will fail? He paused. He could not answer. That thought had lived in his mind for so long that he never questioned it. It was not a truth. It was a belief, and beliefs can be broken. Negative thinking often begins early. Maybe you were criticized as a child, and those words became your inner voice. Maybe you failed once, and you replayed that failure so many times that it became your identity. Maybe you lived surrounded by fear, and now your thoughts mirror the fear that was modeled for you. But no matter where negativity began, it does not have to rule where you are going. You are not doomed to repeat the same thought patterns forever. The first step to breaking free is awareness. You must catch your negative thoughts in the act. Write them down. See them on paper. Ask yourself, would I speak these words to someone I love? If not, why do you allow them to live in your mind? Awareness exposes the lies for what they are. The second step is replacement. You cannot simply tell yourself, stop thinking negatively. That only creates frustration. Instead, every time a negative thought arises, replace it with a thought of truth and power. If your mind says, I cannot, you answer, I will learn. If it says, I will fail, you answer, I will grow. If it says, no one cares, you answer, I matter and I choose to connect. Replacement is the practice of starving lies and feeding truth. The third step is repetition. Do not expect instant freedom. Negative thinking has built grooves in your brain over years, like deep tracks in the dirt where wheels always roll. To form new tracks, you must repeat truth again and again until your mind begins to default to strength instead of weakness. At first, it feels unnatural. Over time, it becomes automatic. This is how freedom is built, one thought at a time. I once heard the story of a prisoner who was locked in a dark cell for decades. When he was finally freed, the sunlight was so blinding that he could not open his eyes. He wanted to retreat into the dark again because it felt familiar. Many people are the same with negativity. Positivity feels uncomfortable at first. It feels forced, but that discomfort is not a sign you are failing. It is a sign you are leaving the prison. Keep going until the light feels natural. Here is a metaphor to hold on to your mind, is like a radio picking up many stations. Some stations broadcast fear, others anger, others despair. You may not control what signals exist, but you do control which one you tune into. If you stay tuned to the station of negativity, your life will echo with its messages. If you change the frequency, your inner world will change with it. So I ask you, which negative thoughts have been ruling your life? Whose voice do they sound like? A parent, a teacher, an old enemy, or perhaps your own wounded self? Write them down, face them, and then begin the practice of replacement. For every lie, speak a truth. For every fear, declare courage. For every limitation, affirm possibility. If you are still listening, this is your challenge for the next 7 days. Carry a notebook or use your phone to record every negative thought you notice. At the end of each day, replace each one with a positive, empowering truth. Share one of your replacements in the comments. It may give courage to someone else fighting the same battle. And if this chapter touched you, share it. Someone you know is living in the prison of their own mind, and they need to hear that the key is already in their hands. Subscribe so you do not miss the next chapter, because breaking free from negativity is not the end. It is the beginning of creating a new inner world, one that aligns with the life you long to live. Chapter 3. The Hidden Power of Focus. Your thoughts are like light. Scattered, they illuminate little. Concentrated, they become a laser that can cut through steel. Most people live with scattered minds pulled in every direction by distractions, anxieties, and endless streams of information. Their focus is stolen by screens, by noise, by comparison, until their energy is drained without producing anything meaningful. They wonder why they feel tired, unfulfilled, lost. The answer is simple. They have never learned to direct the hidden power of focus. I once knew a student named Aisha who dreamed of becoming a doctor. She was intelligent, but her grades suffered because she could not concentrate. She would sit down to study only to check her phone drift into daydreams or replay old arguments in her mind. Her hours of effort produced little fruit. One day her mentor told her, "Your mind is powerful, but it is like water spilling across the floor. Gather it and it can move mountains." She began practicing focus, turning off distractions, setting time blocks, disciplining her thoughts when they wandered. Within a year, her results transformed. She was not smarter than before, she was more focused. Focus is not only about productivity, it is about shaping your inner life. What you focus on grows. Focus on fear, and fear expands. Focus on gratitude, and gratitude multiplies. Focus on your flaws, and you feel unworthy. Focus on your strengths, and you feel empowered. Every emotion you experience is tied to the object of your focus. This is why two people in the same situation can feel entirely different. One sees loss, the other sees opportunity. The difference is focus. But focus is fragile. The world is designed to steal it. Advertisements fight for your attention. Social media feeds are engineered to hook your mind. Even your own thoughts compete, pulling you into regrets of yesterday or worries of tomorrow. To master focus, you must fight for it. You must train yourself to notice when your attention drifts and bring it back again and again until your mind learns that you, not your distractions, are in charge. Think of focus like aiming a bow. If you shoot without aiming, the arrow goes nowhere. But when you fix your eye on the target, steady your hand, and release with intention, the arrow flies true. Life is the same. Without focus, your energy scatters. With focus, your energy strikes exactly where you choose. The danger of unfocused thinking is that you waste your life on what does not matter. How many hours have you spent replaying conversations that are already over? How many days have you lost worrying about problems that never happened? How many years have slipped by because your focus was fixed on surviving rather than living? This is the tragedy of an unfocused mind. It steals your present, your peace, your potential. The practice of focus is simple but not easy. Begin with small steps. When you notice your mind drifting gently, return it to the task at hand. When you catch yourself spiraling into worry, shift to gratitude for what is good now. When you feel overwhelmed by too many goals, choose one and commit fully. Each time you reclaim your focus, you strengthen the muscle of your mind. I once spoke with a man who survived a season of deep grief. He told me that the only thing that kept him from drowning was focus. Each day, he said, I chose one thing to be grateful for. Some days it was only the breath in my lungs, but focusing on that single truth kept me alive. That is the power of focus. It can carry you through storms that would otherwise destroy you. So I ask you, what has your mind been focused on lately? Are you fixated on problems or possibilities, on failures or lessons, on fear or courage? Whatever you feed with focus will shape the atmosphere of your life. Choose wisely. If you are still here, take this challenge for the next 3 days. Write down your top 3 points of focus each morning. Throughout the day, return to them. At night, reflect on whether you stayed true. Share your experience in the comments. Your focus may inspire someone else to shift theirs. And if these words resonated, share them. Someone you know is drowning in distraction, and they need to hear that focus can save them. Subscribe so you do not miss the next chapter, because learning to direct your focus is only the beginning of controlling your thoughts. Chapter 4. Reprogramming the stories you tell yourself. Every person lives inside a story. It is not the story of facts, but the story of interpretation, the meaning you attach to what has happened in your life. 2 people can live through the same event and emerge with 2 different realities because the story they told themselves about that event was different. These inner stories are powerful. They shape your identity, your emotions, your actions. They can either empower you to rise or chain you to despair. I once met a man named Victor who grew up in poverty. His father abandoned the family and his mother worked long hours just to keep food on the table. As a child, Victor told himself a story: I am unwanted. I am destined to struggle. That story followed him into adulthood, poisoning every opportunity. When offered promotions, he declined, believing he was unworthy. When people tried to love him, he pushed them away, believing he would be abandoned again. His story became a self-fulfilling prophecy. But then one mentor asked him, "What if you told a different story? What if instead of saying, 'I was abandoned,' you said, 'I survived'? What if your story was not about being unwanted, but about becoming strong through hardship?" That single shift cracked open a door of possibility. Victor began rewriting his inner narrative. He realized he was not doomed by his past. He was defined by his resilience. Within years, his life changed. The facts of his childhood never changed, but the story he told about them did. This is the secret. Your brain is a storyteller. It constantly seeks meaning. When something painful happens, your mind rushes to explain it. But often those explanations are rooted in fear, shame, or old wounds. She left me, so I must not be lovable. I failed once, so I will always fail. They criticized me, so I must be worthless. These are not facts, they are stories. And if you never challenge them, they become the prison you live in. Reprogramming your story begins with awareness. Write down the sentences you say to yourself most often. Do they sound like truth, or do they sound like limitation? Then ask, who told me this story? Was it my parents, my peers, my past? And does this story serve me, or does it sabotage me? If it sabotages, it is time to let it go. The second step is choice. You cannot erase your past, but you can choose the meaning you give it. Every wound can either be a chain or a lesson. Every failure can either be proof of weakness or proof of courage. Every rejection can either be a mark of worthlessness or a redirection toward something better. The event is fixed, but the story is flexible. And since your life is shaped by the story, your power lies in choosing the one that empowers you. I knew a woman named Grace who was diagnosed with a chronic illness in her 30s. At first, her story was, "Despair, my life is over, my body has betrayed me." She sank into depression. Then one day she decided to rewrite the story. "This illness will slow me, but it will not stop me. It will teach me patience, compassion, and resilience." The facts remained the same, but her new story gave her strength. She became an advocate for others, and her life carried a depth she never imagined possible. Think of your life as a book. The events are the chapters, but you are the narrator. You decide whether each chapter is tragedy or triumph, defeat or preparation, ending or beginning. If you do not like the story you are living, change the narrator, change the meaning, change the voice. So I ask you, what story are you telling yourself about your past, your present, Your future. Does it keep you small or does it make you strong? If your story is filled with defeat, remember you are the author. Pick up the pen and rewrite it. If you are still here, your challenge is this. Take one painful memory and write down the story you have been telling yourself about it. Then write a new version, one that empowers you, one that honors your resilience, one that fuels your growth. Share your rewritten story in the comments. It may inspire someone else to rewrite theirs. And if these words touched you, share them. Someone in your life is trapped in an old story, and they need to know that freedom is possible. Subscribe so you do not miss the next chapter, because once you learn to rewrite your stories, you begin to transform not just your thoughts, but your entire destiny. Chapter 5. Guarding your mind like a sacred gate. Every day, thousands of thoughts, images, and voices knock at the door of your mind asking for entry. Some carry life, others carry poison. The tragedy is that most people leave the gate wide open. They let anything walk in: news filled with fear, gossip dripping with envy, entertainment soaked in violence, criticism born of insecurity. They do not realize that what enters the mind eventually shapes the heart, and what shapes the heart directs the life. If your mind is a garden, then every unguarded thought is a seed, and without vigilance, the weeds will overtake the flowers. I once met a teenager named Lucas who struggled with anger and hopelessness. He told me he felt consumed by negativity, but he could not understand why. As we talked, I asked him to describe his daily inputs. His mornings began with scrolling through social media filled with arguments and comparisons. His afternoons were spent with friends who mocked his dreams. His nights ended with violent video games or dark shows. Day after day, he was feeding his mind a steady diet of chaos. No wonder his soul felt chaotic. When he began guarding his inputs, choosing uplifting music, surrounding himself with supportive voices, reading stories of hope, his entire inner world began to shift. Guarding your mind is not about becoming rigid or fearful of the world. It is about becoming intentional. Just as you would not drink dirty water or eat spoiled food, you must refuse to consume toxic thoughts. Everything you allow in through eyes, ears, and words plants something in you. Over time, it grows. The question is, what are you growing? Think of the human brain as fertile soil. It does not argue with the seeds you plant. If you sow fear, it will grow fear. If you sow gratitude, it will grow peace. If you sow doubt, it will grow hesitation. If you sow vision, it will grow courage. The soil does not care, it simply produces what you plant. That is why guarding the gate matters so much. You are not just protecting yourself from harm, you are choosing the harvest of your future. But guarding your mind also means setting boundaries with people. Some voices lift you, others drain you. Some conversations sharpen you, others poison you. You cannot always control who speaks around you, but you can control whose words you let take root in your mind. If someone constantly belittles you, you must stop treating their voice as truth. If someone constantly complains, you must stop letting their despair become your atmosphere. Guarding the gate means honoring your inner peace above external pressure. I once heard the story of a farmer who built a fence around his fields. His neighbors mocked him, saying it was unnecessary. But when animals trampled their crops, his fields stood protected. Guarding your mind is that fence. Others may not understand why you limit your inputs, why you refuse certain conversations, why you walk away from negativity. But when storms come, your inner garden will stand while theirs may fall. How do you practice this daily? Start by noticing your inputs. Pay attention to how you feel after scrolling, watching, or listening. If something leaves you anxious, angry, or empty, ask yourself why you are still letting it in. Replace toxic inputs with life-giving ones: books that challenge you, music that uplifts you, conversations that inspire you. Little by little, your atmosphere changes. Guarding your mind also means guarding your self-talk. Sometimes the most toxic voice is your own. Notice the words you speak to yourself in silence. Would you say those words to a friend? If not, they do not belong in your mind either. Replace them with truth. Become the guardian who refuses entry to lies, even when they come dressed in your own voice. So I ask you, what have you been allowing into your mind without question? Which voices, which images, which conversations have been shaping you? Are they leading you toward peace or toward chaos, toward growth or toward decay? You are the gatekeeper. No one else can guard this sacred space for you. If you are still listening, I challenge you to take 1 week and audit your inputs. Cut out one toxic source and replace it with something nourishing. Share your decision in the comments. It may inspire someone else to guard their own gate. And if this chapter spoke to you, share it. Someone in your life is drowning in negativity, and they need to know that they have the power to choose what enters. Subscribe so you do not miss the next chapter, because once you learn to guard your mind, you prepare the ground for transformation that cannot be shaken. Chapter 6. Mastering the Battlefield Within. Every great battle you will ever face begins not in the world around you, but in the unseen terrain of your own mind. Wars are fought on fields of land, but destinies are won or lost in the hidden dialogue of thought. When you understand this, you stop blaming circumstances, stop blaming people, stop blaming luck. You realize that the true fight is within, and if you can master the battlefield of your thoughts, no enemy outside can conquer you. The human mind is a restless place. One moment it is calm, the next it is storming with doubts. One moment it is filled with vision, the next it is flooded with fear. This shifting landscape makes it feel as though you are powerless, tossed around like a leaf in the wind. But the truth is different. The truth is that your mind is like a battlefield, where two armies fight, one of faith, courage, and clarity, the other of fear, despair, and confusion. Every thought you entertain is like giving ammunition to one of those armies. Feed the wrong side and defeat is certain. Feed the right side and victory is inevitable. I once met a businessman named Harold who nearly destroyed his career because he lost the war in his mind. On the surface, he was competent and hard-working, but inside he believed every criticism, replayed every mistake, and doubted every decision. When an opportunity arose to expand his business, he was paralyzed by what-ifs. What if I fail? What if I lose everything? What if I embarrass myself? He lost the opportunity not because he lacked skill, but because he surrendered to fear. Later, when he realized this, he began retraining his inner dialogue. Each time fear whispered, he answered with courage. What if I succeed? What if I learn? What if this is my breakthrough? Over time, his victories outside mirrored his victories inside. Why do so many people lose the battle within? Because they fight without awareness. They think thoughts are harmless, but thoughts are seeds that grow into emotions, emotions that drive decisions, and decisions that shape destinies. Negativity is not small. It is an invading army. Worry is not innocent. It is a thief of focus. Doubt is not trivial. It is the assassin of dreams. Until you see thoughts for what they are, forces shaping your future, you will never take the battle seriously enough to win it. Winning begins with recognition. When a thought arises, you must ask, whose side does this thought serve? Does it serve faith or fear? Does it build courage or weaken it? Does it lead me to growth or to retreat? This simple act of discernment transforms you from a passive victim to an active warrior. No longer do thoughts slip in unnoticed. Now you stand guard, examining each one at the gate. But recognition alone is not enough. You must also respond. If a destructive thought appears, you cannot simply wish it away. You must counter it with a stronger thought. If the mind whispers, "You are not enough," you answer, "I am growing every day, and growth is enough." If it says you will fail, you reply, "Every failure is a step toward success." The battlefield is won not by silence, but by replacing lies with truth. I once worked with a woman named Mary Ann who had lived under the weight of shame for years. Her inner voice constantly repeated, "You are worthless." She believed it for so long that it shaped her posture, her relationships, her choices. Then one day she decided to fight back. Every morning she looked in the mirror and spoke new words. "I am valuable. I am worthy of respect. I am capable of building a good life." At first it felt hollow, even ridiculous. But day by day those words began to plant new seeds. Within months her self-image shifted. She held her head higher. She began pursuing opportunities she once thought impossible. She discovered the power of answering back. Think of your mind like a castle. Without guards, enemies walk through the gates freely plundering whatever they like. But with trained guards, every intruder is challenged. Some are cast out, some are imprisoned, and only those who belong are allowed entry. You must be the guard of your own castle. You cannot stop thoughts from knocking, but you can decide who stays. This battle, however, is not fought once. It is fought daily. Victory in the mind is not a permanent state. It is a discipline. Just as a soldier trains every day, you must train your thoughts continually. You will win some battles and lose others, but what matters is persistence. The more you practice, the more natural it becomes. Over time, your mind shifts from being a chaotic battlefield to a disciplined army that serves your purpose. The power of this inner victory is immense. When you master your mind, setbacks no longer destroy you. Criticism no longer defines you. Fear no longer paralyzes you. You may still feel these things, but you do not obey them. You choose courage, focus, and clarity instead. And as you win inside, your outer life begins to mirror the strength within. So I ask you, which army have you been feeding in your mind? Are you giving more energy to fear than to faith? More attention to doubt than to courage? More focus to despair than to hope? The battle is not outside, it is within. And the outcome of that battle will decide everything about your life. If you are still here, I challenge you for the next 7 days, keep a record of your inner battles. Each time a destructive thought arises, write it down and write your response. Replace every lie with truth. Share one of your battles in the comments. It may help someone else recognize they are not alone. And if this chapter stirred something in you, share it. Someone you know is losing silently inside, and your words may give them the courage to fight back. Subscribe so you do not miss the next chapter, because the war within is not meant to destroy you. It is meant to reveal the strength you never knew you had. Chapter 7. Transforming Thought into Action. There is a dangerous illusion. Many people live under the belief that thinking alone is enough. They fill journals with dreams, fill conversations with ideas, fill their minds with visions of a better future. Yet their lives remain the same year after year. Why? Because thoughts without action are like seeds never planted. They hold potential but produce nothing. To change your life, you must transform thought into action, into steps however small that bring the invisible into reality. I once knew a man named Adrian who loved self-improvement books. He could quote wisdom from memory, recite philosophies with eloquence, and speak passionately about the life he wanted. But when asked what he was actually doing differently, he fell silent. His mind was full, but his days were empty. The gap between his thoughts and his actions was the prison of his life. He believed that understanding was enough, but understanding is only the beginning. Without action, knowledge rots into regret. This is the trap of overthinking. The mind convinces you that imagining progress is the same as making progress. You replay scenarios, plan endlessly, analyze every option until paralysis sets in. Days pass, opportunities fade, and you remain where you began. Overthinking is the enemy of transformation. The only cure is movement, imperfect, messy, unpolished movement. Action breaks paralysis. But the human struggle is fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of not being ready. These fears disguise themselves as wisdom. I will start when the time is right. I just need more clarity. I should wait until I feel confident. But the time is never perfect. Clarity comes only through experience, and confidence grows only by doing. Waiting for fear to vanish before you act is like waiting for the ocean to be still before you set sail. If you wait, you will never leave the shore. I once met a woman named Layla who dreamed of starting a bakery. For years, she told herself she was not ready. She needed more money, more skills, more certainty. Then one day, she baked a dozen loaves and sold them at a local market. That was all. No business plan, no perfect setup, just action. To her surprise, people loved them. That small step grew into orders, then into a small shop, then into a thriving business. When I asked her what changed, she said, "I stopped waiting for perfect and started with what I had." That is the secret. Thought becomes transformation only when it steps into action. Action also shapes thought. Too many people believe they must think their way into new behavior, but often it works the other way around. You behave your way into new thinking. Courage is not born in endless preparation. It is born in doing the very thing you fear. Confidence is not born in theory. It is born in practice. Direction is not found by sitting still. It is found by walking the path. Action clarifies what thought alone cannot. Think of a sculptor facing a block of marble. He may imagine the statue inside, but imagination alone will never bring it out. Only by lifting the chisel and striking again and again, imperfectly at first, does the form emerge. Your life is the same. Your thoughts are the vision, but your actions are the chisel. Without them, the masterpiece remains hidden. Transforming thought into action requires discipline. Begin small. Choose one idea you have been circling for too long and take the smallest possible step toward it today. Do not wait for confidence. Confidence will meet you after you move. Do not wait for approval. Your path does not require permission. Do not wait for certainty. Clarity is built in the doing. But action must also be consistent. One burst of effort will not change your life. Transformation requires repeated steps, repeated choices, repeated courage. It is like rowing a boat across a vast lake. One stroke does not carry you far, but stroke after stroke, day after day, you arrive at the other shore. Consistency is the bridge between vision and reality. I once spoke with a man who overcame addiction. He told me the turning point was not one grand decision, but daily choices. Every day, he said, I chose to stay sober for just that day. I did not wait for motivation. I acted. Day by day, it became a habit. Habit became strength. Strength became freedom. His story is proof. Small, consistent actions change lives more than any single moment of inspiration. So I ask you, what thought have you been holding but not acting on? What dream have you been imagining but not pursuing? What step have you delayed in the name of perfection or fear that thought is your seed? But until you plant it in action, it will remain lifeless. If you are still listening, here is your challenge. Choose one action today that aligns with your highest thought. It does not need to be big. It only needs to be real. Take it. Share it in the comments to declare your intention. And if this chapter lit a fire in you, share it. Someone you know is drowning in endless thinking, and they need to hear that action is the lifeline out. Subscribe so you do not miss the next chapter, because once you begin turning thoughts into action, you step into the life you were always meant to live. Chapter 8. Building a Mind of Gratitude. There is a quiet shift that can transform the entire landscape of your thoughts. It is not dramatic, it is not loud, but it is powerful beyond measure. That shift is gratitude. Most people think of gratitude as saying thank you when something good happens, but true gratitude is much deeper. It is a way of seeing a lens through which you interpret every moment. When you train your mind to focus on what is present, rather than what is missing, on what is working rather than what is broken, you awaken a power that no storm can destroy. I once met a man named Oliver who had lost almost everything. A fire had consumed his home, and he was left with little more than the clothes on his back. When I asked how he was surviving, he said something I will never forget. I lost my house, but I did not lose my life. I lost my possessions, but I did not lose my family. I have air in my lungs and love in my heart. That is enough to rebuild. His eyes shone with a strength that could not be explained by circumstances. Gratitude had given him the courage to endure. Gratitude does not erase pain. It does not deny hardship. It reframes them. Where others see only loss, gratitude sees lessons. Where others see only obstacles, gratitude sees opportunities. It does not mean you ignore what is wrong. It means you refuse to let what is wrong blind you to what is still right. The human mind has a bias for negativity. Scientists call it the negativity bias, the tendency to dwell on what is missing, broken, or threatening. This bias once kept our ancestors alive, but in modern life, it often keeps us trapped in fear and dissatisfaction. Gratitude is the antidote. It retrains the mind to notice goodness, however small, and in noticing, expands it. I once worked with a woman named Clara who was deeply unhappy. She had a stable job, a supportive partner, and good health, yet she always focused on what she lacked: more money, a bigger house, a higher title. Her thoughts were consumed by comparison, and comparison left her empty. I challenged her to keep a gratitude journal, writing down 3 things each day she was thankful for. At first, she resisted, but slowly the practice rewired her mind. Within months, she reported feeling lighter, more peaceful. "My life did not change," she said, "but my perspective did, and that changed everything." Gratitude is like sunlight in a dark room. It does not remove the shadows, but it reveals what is still beautiful, still present, still alive. The more you practice it, the more light you invite. And the more light you invite, the less power the darkness holds. But gratitude is not only for good days. Its greatest power shows in the worst days. When illness strikes, gratitude says, "I still have today." When betrayal wounds, gratitude says, "I still have the chance to grow wiser." When failure comes, gratitude says, "I still have the strength to try again." Gratitude is not about perfection, it is about perspective. Think of your mind as a garden. Gratitude is the water that nourishes the flowers. Without it, weeds of bitterness and despair spread quickly. With it, beauty grows even in barren soil. The garden may not be perfect, but gratitude makes it fruitful. Practicing gratitude requires discipline. Begin with small steps. Each morning, name 3 things you are thankful for before you rise. Each night, reflect on one moment of the day that brought joy, however small. Speak your gratitude aloud to others, letting them know they matter. Over time, these small acts reshape your mental patterns. Gratitude ceases to be something you practice. It becomes who you are. So I ask you, what are you grateful for right now? Not tomorrow, not someday, but in this very moment. Is it the breath in your lungs, the presence of someone you love, the chance to grow, the opportunity to begin again? Write it down, speak it aloud, let it fill your mind until it spills into your life. If you are still with me, take this challenge for the next 21 days. Keep a gratitude journal. Write down 3 things each day, no matter how small. At the end of the 3 weeks, reflect on how your perspective has shifted. Share your journey in the comments. It may inspire someone else to discover the power of gratitude. And if this chapter touched you, share it. Someone you know is drowning in negativity, and they need to hear that gratitude is the lifeline out. Subscribe so you do not miss the next chapter, because gratitude is not the end. It is the foundation upon which a transformed life is built. Chapter 9. The discipline of renewing your mind daily. The mind is not a place you clean once and leave tidy forever. It is more like a room that gathers dust each day. Thoughts of fear, doubt, and anger drift in like particles, settling quietly until you barely notice them. Over time, the weight of this mental dust suffocates your clarity and darkens your vision. That is why renewal must be daily. You cannot control every thought that enters, but you can choose to sweep them out each morning to reset your inner world before the world outside overwhelms you. Renewal is not a luxury, it is survival. I once met a man named Ethan who struggled with anger. Each day he promised himself he would stay calm, but each evening he returned home exhausted and ashamed of yet another outburst. When we traced the pattern, we realized he was carrying the same thoughts from yesterday into today, never cleaning them out. His mind was a cluttered attic of old frustrations, unchallenged beliefs, and lingering disappointments. When he learned to renew his mind each morning, breathing, reflecting, choosing new thoughts, before the day began, his reactions began to shift. He was not perfect, but he was freer. Renewal gave him space between trigger and response. Daily renewal begins with awareness. When you wake, notice your first thoughts. Are they filled with worry, replaying yesterday's failures or today's fears? If so, pause. Do not let those thoughts set the tone of your day. Instead, consciously replace them. Speak words of strength. Today is new. I am capable. I will choose peace. This is not denial. It is direction. You are choosing the path your mind will walk before the world chooses it for you. The human brain is wired for repetition. Whatever you dwell on, it begins to automate. That is why people who dwell on negativity find it so hard to break free. The brain has been trained to expect and reproduce those thoughts. Renewal is the act of retraining, of breaking old grooves and carving new ones. It is not a single act, but a discipline. Each repetition strengthens the new path until one day positivity becomes the default instead of the exception. I once knew a woman named Layla who used to describe herself as cursed with worry. She thought it was her nature, but when she began renewing her mind, daily writing down her worries each morning and then deliberately reframing them into possibilities, she realized worry was not her identity. It was her habit, and habits can be changed. Within months, people began asking her how she stayed so calm. She smiled and said, "I clean my mind each day the way others clean their house." Renewal became her secret strength. Renewal also means letting go. Many people drag the weight of yesterday into today, resentments, regrets, old failures. They live as though the past has the right to rule the present. But renewal is the declaration that yesterday is finished. You cannot undo it, but you do not have to relive it. Each day is a new page if you choose to turn it. Think of your mind like a garden again. If you do not weed it daily, the weeds overtake the flowers. Renewal is the weeding. It is pulling out lies before they choke the truth. It is watering seeds of gratitude, courage, and peace before the soil dries. A gardener who tends his garden only once a year finds chaos. A gardener who tends it daily finds beauty. The discipline of renewal also builds resilience. Life will always bring stress, conflict, and pain. Without renewal, each blow accumulates until you collapse. With renewal each day, you reset, you breathe out what does not serve you. You breathe in what strengthens you. You may still face storms, but you do not drown in them. Renewal keeps you afloat. So how do you practice this? Begin each morning with 3 steps. First, release, write down, or speak out the thoughts weighing on you. Second, replace, speak truth over each lie, possibility over each fear. Third, refocus, choose one guiding thought for the day, a sentence that anchors you. Repeat it whenever your mind drifts. These small rituals reshape your mental landscape more than you realize. I once heard someone say, "Do not start your day until you have finished it in your mind." That is renewal. It is deciding the state you will carry before the world decides it for you. It is training your thoughts before they train you. It is choosing clarity, courage, and peace as your foundation. So I ask you, what would your life look like if you renewed your mind every day for the next year? Imagine the calm, the focus, the strength you would build. Imagine waking each morning with clarity instead of chaos. That life is possible, but only if you practice the discipline daily. If you are still here, I challenge you tomorrow morning before reaching for your phone, renew your mind. Release, replace, refocus. Share your guiding thought in the comments. It may inspire someone else to anchor their day. And if this chapter spoke to you, share it. Someone you know is carrying the weight of unrenewed thoughts, and they need to know there is another way. Subscribe so you do not miss the next chapter, because once you learn to renew your mind, you discover a strength that grows every single day. Chapter 10. Silence, the secret strength of the mind. In a world filled with endless noise, silence feels almost foreign. From the moment you wake, notifications pull at you, conversations fill the air, the television hums, the city roars, and even when no sound surrounds you, your own thoughts chatter without pause. This constant noise becomes so normal that silence feels uncomfortable, even threatening. Yet silence is not emptiness. It is power. It is the space where clarity is born, where healing begins, where the mind finds its true strength. I once met a young professional named Aaron, who told me he could not stand silence. He said he always needed music playing, a podcast running, or conversations buzzing around him. When he was alone and quiet, his mind filled with anxious thoughts. Silence scares me, he admitted. But what he did not realize was that his avoidance of silence kept him from facing himself. All the noise in his life was a shield against the truth waiting in his own heart. When he finally began practicing moments of silence, just 5 minutes of sitting still each morning, he discovered that silence was not his enemy, but his refuge. His anxiety did not vanish overnight, but slowly silence became the ground where peace took root. Silence is essential because it interrupts the cycle of overthinking. Thoughts left unchecked run like wild horses, pulling you into past regrets and future fears. But in silence, you pause the chase. You step back from the stampede of your mind and see that you are not your thoughts. You are the one who notices them. This realization alone brings freedom. The human mind, when never given silence, grows restless and fragile. It becomes addicted to stimulation, always seeking the next distraction. But when you train your mind to rest in silence, it grows resilient. It learns to stand firm without needing constant input. Silence strengthens the muscles of focus, clarity, and calm. It is like lifting weights for the soul. I once knew a woman named Naomi who faced burnout from years of caregiving. She was always surrounded by voices needing her attention. Children, parents, colleagues. She thought she had no time for silence. But eventually, exhaustion forced her to stop. In those quiet moments, she rediscovered herself. I thought silence would make me weaker, she told me, but it made me stronger. It reminded me that I am more than my roles, more than the demands around me. In silence, I found me. Silence also reveals truth. Noise distracts, but silence uncovers. In the quiet, you hear the subtle voice of intuition, the whisper of wisdom, the nudge of conscience. These voices are drowned out by constant noise, but in stillness they rise. Many breakthroughs in life come not in chaos, but in calm moments of reflection. Silence does not give you new answers. It allows you to hear the ones already inside. Think of silence like a mirror. In noise, your reflection is distorted by ripples. In silence, the waters grow still and you see clearly who you are and where you must go. That clarity can be uncomfortable because it reveals truths you may have avoided, but it is also liberating. Only when you see clearly can you choose wisely. Yet silence must be cultivated. In a noisy world, it will not come by accident. You must create it intentionally. Begin with small steps, 5 minutes each day of sitting without distraction, no phone, no music, no conversation. Breathe, notice your thoughts without chasing them. Over time, increase the practice. Find silence in nature, in prayer, in meditation, in stillness before sleep. Do not be discouraged if at first your mind resists. Like any discipline, silence requires practice before it becomes strength. I once heard a monk describe silence as the reset button of the soul. He explained that just as computers need to reboot to function properly, so too do humans need moments of stillness to clear the clutter and restore clarity. Without this reset, the mind overheats and life feels chaotic. With it, perspective returns. So I ask you, when was the last time you sat in silence, not to plan, not to escape, not to entertain yourself, but simply to be? What fears rise in you when you are quiet? What truths have you been avoiding because the noise has kept you numb? Step into silence, and you may find not fear, but freedom. If you are still here, I challenge you this week. Carve out 10 minutes each day for silence. No distractions, no multitasking, just presence. Notice what arises. Write it down. Share one discovery in the comments. You may encourage someone else to find courage in stillness. And if this chapter resonated with you, share it. Someone in your life is drowning in noise and silence, may be the lifeline they need. Subscribe so you do not miss the next chapter, because once you learn to embrace silence, you will uncover the secret strength that has been waiting within you all along. Chapter 11. Creating Empowering Mental Habits. Most people believe their lives are shaped by massive decisions, monumental events, or rare strokes of luck. But the truth is far simpler and also far more confronting. Your life today is nothing but the sum of the habits you have allowed to take root in your mind. These habits are not only what you do, they are what you think, what you repeat silently to yourself, and what you choose to believe about who you are and what is possible. Think of a single day in your life. From the moment you wake up until the moment you go to sleep, your thoughts follow patterns. If the first thing you do when you open your eyes is worry about what might go wrong, that is not random. It is a habit of thought. If every time you face a challenge, your mind whispers, "I cannot handle this," that is not the truth. It is a rehearsed line practiced so many times that it feels automatic. And if, when someone compliments you, your first instinct is to dismiss it, thinking, "They are just being polite," that too is a habit. Habits of the mind are like grooves carved into stone. The more they are repeated, the deeper they become, until eventually they no longer feel like choices. They feel like who you are. But here is the good news. No groove is permanent. Stone can be carved anew. The mind is infinitely flexible, endlessly capable of repatterning itself. Science calls this neuroplasticity. But you do not need science to prove what your soul already knows, that you are not fixed, not trapped, not doomed to think the same thoughts forever. The question is not whether you can change. The question is whether you will. Consider the difference between two people standing before the same mountain. One has trained their mind with habits of defeat, so they look at the climb and see only exhaustion, danger, and failure. The other has trained their mind with habits of empowerment, so they look at the exact same mountain and see challenge, growth, and the promise of triumph. The mountain has not changed, reality has not shifted, only the habits of thought determine the experience. This is why creating empowering mental habits is not a luxury, it is survival. It is the line between living as a prisoner of old programming and living as the author of your destiny. The question is, what thoughts have you repeated so often that they have become your automatic script? And are they building the life you want or destroying it? The struggle begins with honesty. Too many people tell themselves they are just being realistic when they rehearse negative thoughts. They say that is just who I am when they engage in self-criticism. But realism is only a disguise for fear, and identity is only a story you have told yourself too many times. The first step in transforming your mental habits is catching yourself in the act of unconscious repetition. Notice the words that spill through your mind when you wake up, when you face resistance, when you are about to take a risk. Are they words of a champion or words of someone rehearsing failure? Once you see the pattern, you are no longer powerless. Awareness is the crack in the wall. Into that crack, light begins to seep, and through awareness you can begin the deliberate work of replacement. Every time an old disempowering thought arises, "I cannot," "I am not enough," "this will never work," you have a choice. You can bow to it, feed it, rehearse it again, deepening its roots. Or you can pause, breathe, and replace it with a thought that opens instead of closes. I am learning, I am growing stronger. Every step forward counts. At first, this feels unnatural. The old groove is deep. Walking a new mental path requires effort, focus, and persistence. It feels uncomfortable not because it is wrong, but because it is new. But every time you repeat the empowering thought, every time you choose it over the old one, you carve a fresh line. And slowly, the new path becomes easier to follow, until one day it is not effortful at all. It is who you are. Picture this: a person who for years has automatically thought, I always fail. Every test, every job interview, every relationship was filtered through that thought. But then they decide to reprogram. Every time the thought arises, they replace it with, I learn and improve. At first, it feels forced. But after weeks, then months, their mind begins to default to this empowering habit. Now, when they face setbacks, they do not collapse, they adapt. Their life has changed, not because the world shifted, but because their inner dialogue did. This is the hidden truth most people never grasp. You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits, and your deepest habits are not in your hands or your schedule. They are in your mind. Create habits of strength, courage, gratitude, and vision, and your life bends upward. Create habits of doubt, fear, and criticism, and no amount of external achievement will satisfy you. So how do you begin? You start small. Choose one area of your thinking where you know you are sabotaging yourself. Maybe it is your self-image. Maybe it is your belief in what is possible. Maybe it is your default response to stress. Then make the conscious decision to replace the old script with a new one. Write it down. Repeat it aloud. Imagine yourself living it, and most importantly, act on it, because action is what seals thought into habit. It is like planting seeds. At first, the soil looks barren. You water, and nothing happens. But below the surface, life is forming. Day after day, you tend it until one day, a green shoot breaks through. That shoot is fragile, easily trampled by old habits. But if you keep protecting it, nurturing it, it becomes a tree. And one day you look around and realize you are living in an entirely different mental landscape, a forest of empowerment where once there was only desert. And remember, habits are contagious. The way you think does not only shape your life, it shapes the lives of those around you. When you train your mind to default to strength, you become a source of strength for others. When you cultivate gratitude, you lift those who walk beside you. When you break the chain of self-doubt, you give others permission to believe in themselves too. In this way, your private victories become public blessings. If you are reading this, it means you already feel the pull to change. You are tired of being trapped in the loops of yesterday's thoughts. You are ready to live from a higher script. Do not wait for the perfect moment. Begin today. Choose one thought to transform. Catch it, replace it, repeat it. That is how new mental habits are born, not in dramatic breakthroughs, but in daily decisions. If you have listened this far, it means you are not like everyone else. You are someone who is ready to take responsibility for the patterns of your mind. I want you to pause right now and ask yourself, what is the one thought that has been holding me back the most? Write it down. Then write the empowering replacement thought you will choose instead. Share it in the comments below. Let others see your commitment. Let your courage spark theirs. And if this chapter has awakened something in you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. You never know whose life could be transformed because you decided to pass it on. And remember to subscribe to this channel so you never miss the next step in mastering your own mind. Chapter 12. Developing Mental Resilience and Emotional Stability. Life does not ask for your permission before it tests you. Storms arrive without warning, losses break your heart when you least expect them, and disappointments cut through even the strongest plans. For most people, these moments feel like earthquakes. that shatter everything they built. They fall apart because their minds have been trained only to thrive in calm weather. But calm weather is not where strength is born. Strength is forged in the fire. Resilience is not what you discover when everything is easy. It is what you choose when everything is hard. Mental resilience is the art of standing firm when the ground beneath you is shaking. Emotional stability is the ability to remain centered not because life is fair, but because you have built an inner anchor that no storm can uproot. Too many people confuse resilience with never falling, but resilience has nothing to do with avoiding pain. Resilience means you fall, but you do not break. You bend, but you do not shatter. You grieve, but you do not surrender your future. It is not denial of difficulty, it is defiance in the face of it. Think about the oak tree and the reed. The oak tree is tall, mighty, proud. When the hurricane comes, it resists with all its might. But sometimes its very strength becomes its weakness because it cannot yield. It cracks under pressure. The reed, however, bends with the wind. It sways, it seems fragile, but when the storm passes, it still stands. That is resilience, not unshakable rigidity, but unbreakable adaptability. So why do people struggle to build resilience? Because they mistake their feelings for their foundation. They believe that to be strong means never feeling afraid, never feeling sad, never feeling uncertain. But the opposite is true. Resilience comes not from avoiding emotion, but from mastering it. Emotional stability does not mean you never feel shaken. It means you know how to find your balance again. It means you can experience anger without being consumed by it, sorrow without drowning in it, fear without being ruled by it. The mind is like the sea. On the surface, waves crash, winds roar, chaos reigns. But if you dive deeper, you will find stillness. The deeper you go, the calmer the waters. Emotional stability is learning to live from the depths, not from the surface. It is remembering that no matter how violent the storm above, there is always calm below if you choose to sink into it. Let me tell you a story. There was once a man who lost everything in a single year: his job, his marriage, his health. At first he collapsed under the weight of it all. He thought his life was over, but then he made a choice. Instead of asking, "Why me?" he asked, "What now?" That shift changed everything. He began to rebuild step by step. He trained his mind to say, "This is temporary. This is not the end. This is my chance to grow stronger." Years later, he said losing everything was the best thing that ever happened to him because it forced him to discover a resilience he never knew he had. This is the truth. Your mind can be trained to respond to pain with strength, to setbacks with creativity, to losses with wisdom. But it does not happen by accident. It happens by conscious practice. The first practice is reframing. Life will hand you disappointments. You cannot control that, but you can control the meaning you assign. A rejection is not proof that you are unworthy. It is protection redirecting you to something better. A failure is not the end of the road. It is feedback guiding you toward mastery. Reframing is the difference between a victim and a warrior. The victim says, "This broke me." The warrior says, "This built me." The second practice is presence. Anxiety lives in the future, regret lives in the past, but resilience lives in the present. When you anchor yourself in the now, your breath, your body, this very moment, you take back power from the chaos of time. You stop drowning in what if and if only, and start swimming in what is. The third practice is self-compassion. Too many people destroy their resilience by attacking themselves when they stumble. They believe that beating themselves up will make them stronger. But cruelty never builds strength, it only deepens wounds. True resilience comes from treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend. When you fall, you say, "It is okay. Stand up again." When you fail, you say, "This is how we learn." Self-compassion is not weakness. It is fuel for the long journey. The fourth practice is vision. You can endure almost any how if you have a strong enough why. People break not because life is hard, but because they forget what they are fighting for. When you hold a vision so vivid, so compelling, so alive inside you, Setbacks cannot kill it. Resilience is not just bouncing back, it is bouncing forward using every obstacle as a stepping stone toward your purpose. Imagine two people facing the same storm. One says, "This is too much. I cannot go on." The other says, "This hurts, but I know where I am going." The storm is identical. The difference is the vision. The one with vision will not only survive, they will rise. But here is the most important truth. Resilience is not built in the storm. It is revealed in the storm. It is built in the small daily choices before the storm arrives. Every time you face discomfort and choose not to run, you are training resilience. Every time you calm yourself instead of lashing out, you are training stability. Every time you hold on to hope when despair whispers louder, you are training strength. By the time the storm comes, you are not scrambling to learn resilience, you are already living it. And this resilience becomes contagious. When you hold steady in the storm, you give others courage to do the same. When your calm presence radiates in chaos, you become a lighthouse. And lighthouses do not chase ships. They simply stand shining and the lost find their way. So let me ask you, when the next storm comes, and it will, who will you be? The oak that breaks or the reed that bends? The victim who collapses or the warrior who rises? The one who curses life for being unfair or the one who thanks life for making them strong? If you are hearing this, it means you are being called to train your resilience now. Do not wait for the storm to prepare. Start today. Choose one practice, reframing presence, self-compassion, or vision. Live it, repeat it, make it a habit. And when the storm comes, you will discover that what once broke you now builds you. If this resonates with you, take a moment to reflect on the last time you felt overwhelmed. How did you respond? Did your reaction make you stronger, or did it weaken you? Share your answer in the comments below. You never know whose life might be lifted by your honesty. And if this chapter gave you strength, share it with someone who is fighting their own battle right now. Let them know they are not alone. And remember to subscribe to the channel to keep receiving messages that strengthen your soul. Chapter 13. The Power of Emotional Mastery. Most people believe their emotions are like the weather, unpredictable, uncontrollable, and entirely outside their power. They wake up hopeful if the sun shines inside their heart, but collapse in despair when storms of anger, sadness, or fear roll in. They let their days, their decisions, and even their destiny be dictated by emotional weather patterns. But emotions were never meant to be your master. They were designed to be your messengers. And when you learn to master them, you stop being a slave to storms and begin to command the climate of your inner world. Imagine a ship at sea. Waves rise, winds howl, darkness closes in. If the captain panics, loses focus, and lets the ship drift aimlessly, disaster follows. But if the captain steadies the wheel, reads the signals, and responds with wisdom, the ship sails safely through. Your emotions are the waves, but you are the captain. Too many people forget that truth. They confuse being aware of emotions with being controlled by them. Emotional mastery is the difference between drowning and directing. The human struggle begins with misunderstanding emotions. Society teaches us to fear them, suppress them, or indulge them recklessly. We are told not to cry, not to feel weak, not to show anger. Or in contrast, we are told to follow our feelings blindly, as if every impulse is a divine instruction. Both extremes destroy balance. Suppression makes emotions grow stronger in the shadows until they explode. Indulgence makes them tyrants that hijack reason and sabotage progress. Mastery, however, is the middle path, honoring emotions as signals, but refusing to worship them as gods. Think about fear. Fear is not your enemy. Fear is a messenger warning you of potential danger. Without fear, you would not survive a single day. But if you obey fear blindly, it will paralyze you. Emotional mastery does not mean eliminating fear. It means hearing its message without letting it dictate your destiny. The same is true for anger, sadness, or even joy. Every emotion is a tool. Mastery means you decide how to use it. Why do people get stuck? Because they confuse emotions with identity. They say, I am anxious, I am depressed, I am angry. No, you are not anxiety. You are not depression. You are not anger. You are the consciousness noticing these emotions. The moment you separate yourself from the storm, you gain power over it. The problem is not feeling anger. The problem is believing anger is who you are. Emotional mastery begins with awareness. You cannot master what you refuse to notice. Most people run on autopilot, carried by emotional currents they do not even recognize. They snap at a loved one, quit a project, or sabotage a dream, then later say, I do not know what came over me. What came over them was unexamined emotion. To master emotions, you must pause, observe, and name them. This is fear. This is sadness. This is frustration. Naming creates distance, and distance creates choice. The next step is understanding. Emotions carry messages. Fear says, prepare. Anger says something feels unjust. Sadness says you lost something valuable. Joy says this aligns with your soul. Instead of running from emotions, ask them what they are here to teach. When you listen deeply, you discover they are not enemies, they are guides. But awareness and understanding are not enough. Mastery requires redirection. You choose how to use the energy of emotion. Anger can destroy relationships, or it can fuel justice and courage. Fear can freeze you, or it can sharpen your focus before a big performance. Sadness can drown you, or it can soften your heart to love more deeply. Joy can make you complacent, or it can inspire gratitude that expands your life. Emotional mastery means alchemy, turning raw energy into gold. Let me share an example. A young athlete once confessed that before every competition he was overwhelmed by fear. His heart raced, his palms sweated, and he thought, I cannot do this. But then his coach told him, that is not fear. That is your body preparing for greatness. That is energy flooding your system so you can perform at your peak. The boy began to see fear differently. He stopped calling it fear and started calling it readiness. The same emotion reframed became his ally. That is mastery, not removing the feeling, but reinterpreting its power. Mastery also requires discipline. You cannot let emotions dictate your every decision. If you only act when you feel like it, your dreams will die in neglect. The truth is, you will not always feel motivated. You will not always feel brave. You will not always feel calm. But emotional mastery means showing up anyway. The disciplined mind says my emotions can join me, but they cannot stop me. Some people believe emotional mastery means being cold, detached, or robotic. But the opposite is true. Mastery makes you more alive, not less. Because when you are no longer afraid of emotions, you can feel them fully without drowning. You can cry deeply without despair. You can love fiercely without fear of loss. You can feel anger without burning bridges. Mastery gives you freedom to experience the full spectrum of life without being enslaved by it. Think of it this way: a pianist who does not master the keys makes noise, not music. But a pianist who practices until mastery can express sorrow, joy, passion, or tenderness through the same instrument. The keys have not changed. The difference is control. Your emotions are the keys. Without mastery, they produce chaos. With mastery, they produce symphonies. So how do you train emotional mastery? You practice moment by moment. When frustration arises, pause before reacting. When sadness visits, allow yourself to feel it without judgment. When fear grips you, thank it for the message and take one step forward anyway. Each small victory is training. And like any training, consistency transforms weakness into strength. But here is the secret: you do not train for the easy days. You train for the storms. Mastery is not tested when everything goes your way. It is tested when your heart breaks, when plans collapse, when you are betrayed, when you are afraid. In those moments, you discover whether your emotions are your masters or your messengers. Ask yourself now, which emotions rule your life most often? Is it fear whispering that you cannot? Is it anger convincing you to destroy what you love? Is it doubt keeping you small? And then ask, what if I chose to master them instead of being mastered by them? What if I let fear sharpen me, anger fuel me, sadness deepen me, and joy inspire me? Who would I become then? If you are reading these words, you already know the answer. You would become unstoppable, not because you never feel pain, but because you never let pain define you. Not because you never fall, but because you rise every time. Not because you live without emotion, but because you live with them fully on your terms. If this chapter has touched something inside you, I invite you to reflect on the last emotion that controlled you. What would have happened if instead of reacting blindly, you had paused, listened, and redirected it? Share your story in the comments below. Your lesson could become someone else's lifeline. And if this message gave you strength, share it. Somewhere someone is drowning in emotions they do not understand, believing they are powerless. You can be the spark that shows them another way. And do not forget to subscribe to the channel to continue your journey toward mastery, resilience, and freedom. Chapter 14. Resetting your mindset for a new life. There comes a moment in every journey when the old self must die for the new self to be born. Most people resist this truth because it feels terrifying. To reset your mindset is not just to change a few thoughts. It is to question everything you thought you knew about yourself, about life, about what is possible. It is to shatter the mirrors that reflected only limitation and to dare to stand before a new mirror that shows the greatness you were always capable of, but never dared to believe. The world has programmed you from birth. Voices told you who you could be, what you could do, and what you should never try. Teachers measured you by grades, not potential. Parents warned you to play safe, not to dream too wildly. Society trained you to fit inside the box, not to break it. Over time, you began to mistake their voices for your own. You believed their limits were your limits. You believed their doubts were your destiny. But there is a deeper truth. You are not your programming. You are not your past. You are not the mistakes you made, nor the fears you carried. You are the awareness behind it all. And today you are being called to reset, to wipe the mental slate clean, to install new standards, new beliefs, new patterns of thought that align not with who you were, but with who you are becoming. The struggle begins here. Most people never pause to question the thoughts that run through their minds every day. They let them repeat endlessly like broken records. I am not good enough. I will never succeed. People like me do not get far. Life is unfair. They live and die under the tyranny of unchallenged beliefs. The first step of a mindset reset is to interrupt this unconscious cycle. You must stop, listen, and ask, who told me this? Do I still want to believe it? Does this thought serve the life I want or chain me to the life I fear? When you begin asking these questions, something powerful happens. You realize that beliefs are not facts. They are choices. They were installed once, and they can be uninstalled now. If a belief does not serve you, it does not deserve you. Resetting your mindset is the act of firing the old scriptwriter and hiring a new one. But here is the challenge your old mindset will resist. It will whisper, "This is who you are. You cannot change now. It is too late. This is just your fate." That voice is not truth, it is habit. Habits fight for survival, but habits are not destiny. You have the authority to declare enough. This story ends here. A new story begins. Resetting your mindset requires clarity. You must define the standards you will now live by. What do you refuse to tolerate anymore? What new standards will you demand of yourself? Maybe you will no longer tolerate self-doubt as your default response. Maybe you will no longer tolerate procrastination stealing your dreams. Maybe you will no longer tolerate toxic voices dictating your worth. Instead, you will set the standard that your thoughts must serve your vision, that your words must align with your highest self, that your actions must reflect the greatness within you. This is not easy. It is war. Every day, the old mindset will try to drag you back. Every day, your fears will whisper, "Go back to sleep. Stay comfortable. Do not change." But the new you must rise and respond. No, comfort is a cage. Growth is my path. I was not born to survive. I was born to expand. Think of a computer running outdated software. It crashes, slows down, frustrates you. But the moment you reset and install new software, the machine performs at a new level. Your mind is the same. Resetting means deleting the viruses of fear, doubt, and limitation, and installing programs of courage, clarity, and determination. You cannot run a new life on an old mindset. Here is the deeper truth: every transformation in history began with a mindset reset. A person who was once overlooked decided, "I will no longer accept being invisible." An addict decided, "I will no longer believe I am powerless." An ordinary worker decided, "I will no longer live as a cog in the machine. I will create my destiny." That moment of decision was not small. It was the spark that set fire to everything that followed. Now it is your turn. What belief must die today so that your new life can be born? Is it the belief that you are too old, too young, too broken, too late, too unworthy? Hear me, every one of those beliefs is a lie. The only truth is this: you are capable of more than you have dared to imagine. Your reset begins when you choose to believe that. But belief alone is not enough. Resetting your mindset requires action. Every thought you choose must be reinforced by steps forward. If you believe you are strong, act strong. If you believe you are worthy, act worthy. If you believe your future is great, act today, as if it is already unfolding. Thought and action together create momentum. Momentum rewires identity. Identity builds destiny. And do not forget, a reset is not a one-time event. It is a daily decision. Every morning you wake up, you must choose again. Will I live by yesterday's fears or today's vision? Will I let my old self dictate, or will I step into my new self? The world will try to drag you back, but your reset is stronger than the world if you choose it consistently. Imagine yourself a year from now. Imagine looking back on this very day and realizing it was the turning point. The day you decided no longer to live small. The day you reset your mindset and demanded more from yourself and your life. How proud would you be? How grateful that future is waiting for you. But it depends on the choice you make now. So I challenge you, take out a piece of paper and write down 3 beliefs that no longer serve you. Cross them out. Then write 3 new beliefs that will define your life from this day forward. Repeat them aloud. Post them where you will see them every day. Let them become your new default. This is not just an exercise. This is your reset. If you have reached this point, it means you are ready. You would not be reading these words if something inside you were not crying out for transformation. Do not ignore that cry. Act on it. Reset your mindset and you reset your life. And now I turn to you personally. If you felt something awaken inside you while reading this, do not let it fade. Comment below with the one belief you are replacing today. Declare it, share it. Let the world witness your reset. And if this chapter spoke to you, share it with someone who needs it, because their reset may begin with your courage. And remember to subscribe, because this journey is just beginning. Chapter 15. The final call. Step into the life you were born to live. There comes a point in every journey when reflection must end and decision must begin. You have walked through stories of pain and resilience. You have seen the power of thought. You have felt the fire of new habits, and you have glimpsed the possibility of becoming someone greater than you ever dared to imagine. But all of it means nothing if you stop here. Knowledge without action is like a seed never planted. It carries potential, but it will never bloom. This is your moment of truth. This is the crossing point between the life you have always known and the life you were born to live. And no one can cross it for you. Not your parents, not your friends, not even your mentors. You must choose. You must step. Most people will not. They will nod their heads in agreement, feel inspired for a moment, and then go back to their old patterns. They will let comfort wrap its chains around them. They will tell themselves they will change someday, but someday never comes. Someday is the lie that steals your life. The only real day you have is today. So let me ask you now, what will you do with today? Will you let it slip through your fingers like sand wasted on the same doubts and distractions, or will you claim it as the first page of a new chapter in your existence? The choice is in your hands, and it will echo for the rest of your life. Understand this: you do not need to be fearless to begin. You do not need to have everything figured out. You do not need permission. You only need to decide. Every great life was built not on perfect plans, but on imperfect action. The heroes you admire, the leaders you respect, the creators who changed the world, they all began as ordinary people who simply answered the call. They said, "Enough. I refuse to live small. I will step forward even if I am trembling." That is the difference between those who drift and those who rise. You may feel the weight of your past pressing against you. You may hear the voice that says, "But you failed before. But you are not ready. But you are not enough." Listen closely. That voice is lying. It is the echo of your old self, desperate to survive. But your old self must die for your true self to be born. Every time you choose courage over comfort, the old voice weakens. Every time you act despite fear, the old chains break. Every time you declare, "I am more than this," you step into the life that has been waiting for you all along. The time for hesitation is over. The time for excuses is done. You have carried those long enough. They have not served you. They have only kept you prisoner. Today you set them down. Today you walk free. And freedom is not just for you. Your courage will ripple outward. When you choose to rise, you give others permission to rise too. When you choose to live boldly, you light the path for those who are lost in their own darkness. You become proof that change is possible, that greatness is real, that ordinary people can live extraordinary lives. You are not just transforming yourself, you are transforming everyone you touch. So hear this clearly: the world does not need another person sleepwalking through life. The world does not need another soul chained by fear and doubt. The world needs you awake. The world needs you alive. The world needs you stepping fully into the life you were born to live. Do not wait for the perfect conditions. There will never be a perfect time. There will always be risk, always be uncertainty, always be fear. But fear is not a stop sign. It is a signal that you are standing at the edge of something that matters. Let it be the fire that fuels you, not the chain that holds you back. Close your eyes for a moment and picture the life you ache for, the one that keeps whispering to you in quiet moments. See it clearly: the strength in your body, the peace in your mind, the fire in your spirit, the relationships alive with love, the work that fulfills your soul, the impact that leaves a legacy. Feel it, taste it, let it burn inside you. That life is not a fantasy. It is waiting on the other side of your decision. But here is the truth: no one is coming to rescue you. No one is coming to do the work for you. You are the hero you have been waiting for. And heroes are not born, they are chosen. Chosen by the decision to rise. Chosen by the refusal to quit. Chosen by the courage to act when others shrink back. This is your final call. Not just to read, not just to listen, but to embody. To take what you have learned and live it, to make the shifts permanent, to rewrite the story of your life with your own hand. You may ask, where do I begin? Begin here. Begin now. Begin with one small step, Call the person, write the plan, take the risk, do the thing you have been postponing for years. Do it trembling if you must, but do it, because nothing changes until you act. And once you act, everything changes. The power is in your hands. Your future is in your hands. This book was not written to entertain you. It was written to awaken you. And if you close these pages and return unchanged, then it was wasted. But if you rise, if you decide, if you act, then these words will live forever in the life you create. So I leave you with this. The clock is ticking. Your life is not endless. Every moment wasted is a moment you will never get back. Do not let regret be the story you leave behind. Let courage be your legacy. Let resilience be your testimony. Let transformation be your gift to the world. Stand tall, lift your head, breathe deeply, and declare with your whole being, I will no longer live as a prisoner. I will no longer shrink. I will no longer betray my own potential. From this day forward, I will live fully, freely, and fearlessly. This is my time. This is my life. This is my destiny. And then go. Step into it. The world is waiting. If these words set something on fire inside you, do not keep it to yourself. Share your decision in the comments below. Let the world see your courage. Let others find hope in your commitment. And if this message has shaken you awake, share it with someone you love, because their awakening may depend on you. And subscribe not for my sake, but for yours, so that you never stop feeding the fire that has begun in you. Your new life is here. All that remains is for you to claim it.